Bitcoin and the altcoins bleeding towards the downside. We're trapped in this yet again. How much worse is it going to get? Well, actually, I'm here to tell you that it's not going to get that much worse. And if you avoid this major trap, you're going to be able to come out of this in a very strong position. In this video, I'm going to talk about why this chart is our salvation. I'm going to show you the game that is being played involving us and this chart right now. And I'm going to talk about a key narrative that is surviving this bloody time better than any other, and a few coins within that narrative that I think are worth paying attention to. So guys, do me a favor, hit that like button, take a deep breath, chill the F out, and let's get on with it. Now guys, before I go and give you the warm fuzzy feeling that makes you think that everything is alright once more, let's assess the damage and see how bad it's got. Well, this is the crypto bubbles chart, and you'll see, yeah, it's red. It doesn't feel great. We woke up this morning and we feel really pretty. But why do we feel so bad? Because actually, if we look at the chart, it's really not that bad. Well, because something's going on right now that you need to be aware of. We represent the market. We feel crappy because just 2 days ago, Bitcoin was telling us that we were going to recover towards the upside and everyone was feeling warm and fuzzy about it. And yet today we find ourselves back to square one where we were on Sunday, and it doesn't feel very nice, does it? But yet if you zoom out and you draw a big green box under all this, you'll realize that in this area, Bitcoin tends to get bought up pretty aggressively, and there's a very good chance that Bitcoin will get bought up aggressively yet again here. But it's not by chance we've ended up making a pattern like this. It's absolutely by design, and the game is to basically shake you out and make you do something stupid, which is going to sell the dip. Because every time you get something like this, and every time you wake up and see a page like this, you're more inclined to listen to those people in the comments who are telling you to maybe get out the market because it's going to go much lower. People who are telling you that bull markets are over and the crypto is going to get much worse because we've got a massive recession coming. And why do they need you to do that? Well, they need you to keep selling so that they can keep this price in the zone as long as possible. Why? Because if you're buying in this zone, you don't want to be buying up here. You want to buy in this zone so you can shake people out and continue to get them to think that it is disastrous and to continue to sell into this zone so that you can accumulate more. So you play some simple little games. And how do we know these games exist? Well, go across to coinglass.com. This chart represents where liquidity and money sits in the market. These yellow zones are where there's big short positions or big long positions, and you'll notice that the price runs into the positions and then tends to reverse, and then eventually we'll try and find more positions. However, if you zoom out further, you'll notice that there are a hell of a lot of these big yellow lines sat all the way up back towards 72k as the bears have been jumping in and trying to squeeze the market lower. And as the bears continue to stack up against the market, the chances are we go higher sooner rather than later. So what allows me to remain so bullish in crypto? I hear you cry. Now, despite what you're hearing, we've not yet had a full-blown altcoin season. We've not topped out the crypto bull market. How do we know that? Well, because at the top of the bull market, the best indicator of anything is when everyone around the world is talking about crypto and trying to buy crypto. And do you know what that means? It tends to mean that certain applications on your iPhone or smartphone device will push higher in the App Store. However, as I look into my mobile phone device, I can see that Binance is currently sat in number 41 and Coinbase is sat in number 39. And it tells me what? It tells me that retail aren't even here. You can't have a bull market finish without retail get in. Otherwise, what was the point in big money designing the bull market in the first place if they haven't got retail to dump on at the end? So don't be silly. Now, what else makes us feel warm and fuzzy? Well, on the top of this chart, I've got Bitcoin on the weekly. And on the bottom, I've got the SPX, which is the US Top 500 Companies Index. Now, the more astute members of the audience will probably notice that the top of the bull market for Bitcoin in the last bull market was roughly where the top of the market was for the stock market. You'll see the stock market then kind of increases over time, finds its bottom around Monday, the 10th of October, which was probably just about 4 or 5 days before the FTX crash. You then see that Bitcoin was pretty low. The stock market started to continue to increase. As the stock market increased, Bitcoin then went with it. Until this period of time here, where you can see around the 31st of July last year, the stock market had a bit of a pullback. Weirdly, so did Bitcoin around this period of time. And then the stock market started to continue towards the upside. And then weirdly, so did crypto continue towards the upside. And then you can see after this bit of pullback on the 25th of March in the stock market that Bitcoin also pulled back a little bit during this period of time. And then what happened is that we had another little pullback in the stock market, but then the stock market continued to grow towards the upside, while Bitcoin's looking a little bit red. And as I look at the stock market on the daily, you can see that this is looking like pretty much we continue to head to all-time highs. Okay, we are literally, as we speak, heading towards all-time highs further and further. And since the stock market and Bitcoin are very closely linked and tend to go in very similar directions, it would make sense, give or take a few days of, one going red and one going green and whatever else, it would make very clear sense that if the stock market continues to push higher, which it's looking very, very likely like doing right now, the Bitcoin will go with it. Ultimately, so will the crypto markets. So stop being so emotional. If you are one of those emotional people and you've woken up really like, oh my God, what's going on this morning? Then do yourself a favor. Either sell crypto completely and walk away from it and never look at it again, which I know you can't because you've got an inner degen demon, or stop looking at your charts and walk away. Because if you're not going to sell it and you don't think you're going to sell it and you're not going to buy it, well, just walk away. What are you doing right now apart from making yourself feel worse about this situation? But it's easier said than done, right? Now, in the past, if you subscribed, you've probably seen me talking about the monkey mind. We all have an inner monkey mind, which can't really differentiate between the fear of falling off a building and the fear of the Bitcoin chart falling off the face of a cliff as well. You probably have that same scared feeling, right? And the people who are manipulating the market know this. They're taking advantage of you and playing this game against you. How do we stop this from happening? Well, obviously, only use money that we can afford to lose. But I get it. You're a degen. You've probably used money that you can't really afford to lose. And I know that because I've probably done the same. But that's okay. The market will recover. But there's a way to prepare for this. Right now, you're acting a bit like a rabbit in the headlights. And if you've ever been unfortunate enough to be driving down a country lane in a country that has rabbits and hit one of these poor bunnies, then you'll understand that the rabbit probably did that because it didn't have a plan and it suddenly got put in a situation where it wasn't really very comfortable. Now, you, like the rabbit, probably woke up this morning without a plan and that's why you're feeling a bit sketchy. But if you come across to tradingview.com and take a look at the Bitcoin chart, then you can do something that's going to make you feel a whole lot healthier. This is a green box that I've put in an area where Bitcoin likes to bounce. This means that if I wake up one day, like I did this morning, and Bitcoin seems to be down a little bit, but seems to be still holding on in this box, then we're looking okay. And guess what? There's another green box we can put in for Bitcoin down here. Now, this area represents an area where big money likes to buy Bitcoin. We know that because every time it bounces pretty aggressively from here, but it doesn't mean that it can't break through. If, however, it decides that it wants to break through, how low will it go? Well, it will likely come down to an area like this where you have sideways action followed by a big pump. You can see that this is again another demand zone for Bitcoin. What do? We draw ourselves a box. And if Bitcoin runs down to this demand zone, there is a very damn good chance that it doesn't go significantly lower, because if it does go lower, then it's probably going to be pretty horrendous. But you know what? You draw the box and you deal with that another day. Now, what we know right now is if Bitcoin starts to run into this zone and starts to create one of these little, like, thin skinny bits called a wick towards the downside, then it indicates that buyers are starting to step into the market. It tells us that we can breathe a sigh of relief and feel a little bit calmer that maybe Bitcoin is getting bought up here, and it allows us to plan for this situation ahead. Now, obviously, because you've been subscribed to the channel and you've been paying attention, you've been keeping a bit of spare cash aside, and you've been doing everything within your power to keep cash on the side and be able to accumulate more cash as time goes on. Whether that means spending a little less or earning a little more through doing some side hustles, then you'll identify that on a day like today could be one of those days that you've decided to DCA in. If you haven't and you want to DCA in down here, by all means, do that. Okay? I'm not telling you that the exact best thing to do is to DCA today, when maybe if it does dip down here, you can DCA then. All I'm saying is you have to have some form of a plan that if this happens, you do this, and if this happens, you do this. Because otherwise, if you wake up tomorrow and it does dip down here, I bet you will probably panic sell. And the next thing you're going to wake up is the day after that, Bitcoin does something like that. How do we know this happens? Well, look, it did it here. When else did it do it? Well, it did it down here. It even did it down here. And guess what happens? The next day, all those people who sold into that dip get absolutely crushed. And it'll happen every single time. So yes, I'm not saying I'm going to feel delightful if Bitcoin and the altcoins head down here, but I'm kind of prepared for it to happen because I know ultimately things are going to be all right. Now, how do I know things are going to be all right? Well, because I specifically chose narratives and coins that I felt would perform strongly eventually during a bull market. Now, while some narratives are struggling to kind of get going, which many people out there anticipated doing quite well, like gaming, eventually when Coinbase and Binance hit #1 on here, those games, DeFi, BRC20, AI, DePIN, you name it, is going to be so much higher than it is right now. And if you've been smart enough to choose projects that are actually doing stuff with teams that have been working very hard and showing you the proof of what they've been doing over the last month or so, you'll be fine. And yes, I pretty much mean that for all the coins that I've been talking about on this channel over the last few months, some of which have been absolutely decimated, some of which have performed all right, because eventually you keep buying the dip, and eventually something like this happens, okay? Octo Gaming, it ran down, all the way down, 88%. 4 days later, it went up 214%. Currently, it's sat around 127% up. If you keep buying those dips, eventually this will happen to whichever coin it is, as long as you've got a good team, decent narrative, blah, blah, blah. And it's really not that difficult. But if you're of a bit more sensitive disposition and you're wondering like which narratives seem to be holding up the strongest right now, well, you probably will realize if you go into crypto bubbles, etc., that there is one narrative that seems to be doing quite well, and that is real world assets, RWA. Why? Well, because if you go and search for BlackRock and tokenization on Google, you'll come across an article, this is on Forbes, but basically BlackRock's $10 trillion tokenization vision, the future of real world assets. Effectively, BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is planning on tokenizing assets. Therefore, all the real world asset coins out there kind of looking quite good. And actually, that narrative is only worth around 0.5% of the entire crypto ecosystem right now. So it's probably quite undervalued, because if this is actually legit and it comes true, which probably will, because BlackRock seems to do what it says it's going to do, apart from in the past when it was like crypto's a scam, blah, 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 there's a good chance they're going to start to kind of get the ball rolling and roll into these cryptos. And there's one project that's been running incredibly strong recently, and it's Ondo Finance, which is a $1.5 billion market cap. I don't own this coin. I don't intend to go and buy it right now. Why? Because, well, it's pretty expensive. It also has big unlocks coming at the end of the year, but it does seem to be holding some good value, and we'll see some continued upside this year, and also seems to avoid some of the volatility that we're seeing at the moment in crypto. But I'll show you some better options in just a minute. Basically, why is Ondo doing well? Well, obviously, you know, because it's got this service and that service and everything's kind of great about it, but ultimately it's got some big names on the website, BlackRock, PIMCO, blah, blah, blah. Okay, institutional grade finance now on chain. There's a number of different platforms though that are doing very similar things that have much smaller valuations, and that's where I probably would be betting if I was going to look into real world asset stuff. But there are others out there that might not necessarily achieve the kind of same future level of what Ondo achieves, but significantly smaller valuations. Like Maple Finance is 56.3 million. I don't know too much about Maple Finance, so I probably would suggest that you go and take a look into the website, into the Twitter, and kind of learn more about it. But crypto is this simple, okay? I'm not telling you to buy this coin. I'm going to teach you to look after yourself, okay? Because if you just keep listening to me and you keep listening to other people, you're going to get caught up in this kind of hype and excitement machine where yesterday everyone was bullish and today everyone's bearish and this is happening and that's happening, and you're going to keep blaming other people. And really, if you're not doing the research, you are the problem. So since Ondo is doing really well, go and look at why Ondo is doing well. Perhaps it's the key partnerships. Perhaps it's the team with decent experience over a period of time. Perhaps it's their social media and their ability to drum up excitement and whatever around this particular thing. Maybe it's the fact they got a partnership with BlackRock and BlackRock keep going with the news articles and things like that. Then go across to Maple Finance, another one in real world assets, and understand whether or not Maple Finance has any of the similarities that perhaps Ondo has. Or perhaps go across to Clearpool Finance, which is the one I'm actually betting on rather than the others, which is an $85.2 million market cap, and do some research into this. Okay, you twisted my arm. Let's have a look at Clearpool Finance and why maybe Clearpool Finance could perform well, bearing in mind these coins seem to be holding off against some of the downside exposure risk and seem to be benefiting from some of the upside potential. Well, first things first, reasonable market cap, okay? Don't try and shoot for too small market caps because they come with big risks, but under 100 mil could potentially give us some good ROI. Now look down below. Clearpool Markets. Is it available on lots of decent big exchanges? Seems to be, right? It means that money can flow into the project easily because lots of people have access to these exchanges. I also noticed down below they have Bitunix, which is handy because I also have Bitunix, and if you use the link down below, you'll be able to enjoy this same exchange. Now, Bitunix doesn't require a KYC, doesn't require a VPN, so no matter where you are around the world, you can access this exchange and trade different coins. But obviously, go away and do your own research as to whether or not you should be doing that. And before you find out more about Clearpool, let's jump over to my Twitter, link down below, just to find out more about the $5,000 summer giveaway. Why are we talking about this? Well, it's sponsored by Bitunix as well as others. Now, there's $5,000 worth of total awards going. All you have to do is simply click on this link here and go and follow through a bunch of simple tasks that you can do for absolutely free. You can win crypto cash prizes, you can win hardware wallets, you can win exchange deals and bonuses. You name it, guys. There's 10 different winners, so make sure you go and check this out. Okay, so jumping across to Clearpool, and I'll show you in the charts in just a minute what it looks like. The first decentralized credit marketplace, with currently 560 million loans originated. Now, there's another reason why these real-world asset cryptos seem to have been picking up quite strongly, and it's because of the ETFs. Okay, we had the Bitcoin ETF, we suddenly had an Ethereum ETF, now suddenly we're going to see Solana ETFs rolling out. With the Ethereum ETF rolling out very soon, a lot of real-world asset projects will likely benefit from that as well. Now, if I'm brand new and I'm coming across to a website like this, let's just have a look at things that might be kind of obvious tells as to whether or not it's decent past the fact that, you know, it's in the right narrative. There seems to be stuff within that space that could be catalysts for growth. Now, first things first, $560 million worth of loans have been originated. So what does that really mean to us if we're not really sure about, like, you know, loans and origination of loans and things? Well, it means that basically they're loaning out dollar value to $560 million. Total value locked is $81.7 million. These big numbers indicate that big organizations are investing into this platform and are also benefiting from the money within this platform. As we come down below, you can see that there's various different pools in which you can invest and potentially earn some rewards. And in terms of total value locked, you can see where money's held. You can come down below and see that this project is backed by Sequoia, Arlington Capital, some of the biggest VCs out there. And when it comes to a crypto bull market, despite what you're probably hearing about VCs, etc., being like overinflating prices, actually what causes one of the biggest pumps in altcoin season is the VCs re-injecting cash back into their favorite cryptos in order to pump the price, cause the FOMO, and get people to then ape in as well. They'll eventually sell the top, and you know what happens next. What we're then looking for in any particular coin, whether it's a game or whether it's like DeFi, whatever, is something that's going to take that coin out of the supply. Okay, so that coin is being used to maybe buy goods or sell goods, or there's other like ways and mechanisms in which it's used. So for example here, stake Clearpool to help secure Clearpool's interest rate mechanism. Okay, so basically it's saying that you can stake and then you're going to be able to earn various rewards. By you staking your coins, you're taking away supply. Supply-demand model gets skewed. Ultimately, that can be bullish for the price. Coming down below, you can also do multi-chain bridging. This is also very cool. And you're probably going to have to pay Clearpool tokens in order to bridge different assets. That, again, is going to skew the supply-demand model. What else do we need to know about new projects? Well, we need to make sure they've been audited, who they've been audited by. Hacken, pretty big one. You can go and read the reports. You can even then see the extensive network of all the KYC borrowers who've been borrowing from the platform. Now, obviously, what I've tried to do in this video is look at this like I'm an absolute noob and learn the things that I should be probably paying attention to. So do people seem to be using this? Well, absolutely, because at the moment, they've got all this kind of like TVL and whatever locked. Originated loans, good. Are they backed by kind of people who we can probably rely on because they've got lots of money and they're probably, let's be honest, a bit smarter about crypto than maybe I am? Yes, absolutely. Do they have various different products and utilities that can take away from the supply and disrupt the supply and demand model in my favor? Well, seemingly they do. They've got staking, they've got various other things going on the platform. Have they been audited by respectable organizations? Absolutely. Can I find some news articles about them? You can then go down the line and find out who's the team, etc. Now, obviously, guys, that's really scratch, okay? And I will go over in more detail real-world assets on a future, like, dedicated video, shall we say, towards real-world assets tokens. I'll talk about Ondo in more detail. I'll talk about Clearpool, talk about maybe about Maple Finance, maybe Pendle, and a few others in that space. So guys, if you want to find out more in detail about these, where I'll take the technical stuff and simplify it for people, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Now, if I was a betting man looking at this Ondo chart, you can see that it's pretty high considering the rest of the market's been bleeding. I did sort of say about that. You can see it's making a very interesting kind of pattern here. It does look like there is a potential for Ondo to drop a little bit lower. If it drops, then maybe it would end up in somewhere like a zone down here, somewhere just under 10 cents, which could make it pretty decent. But what I'm kind of like preferring in terms of like exposure to real world assets, which would be leaning maybe towards Clearpool rather than Ondo, is the fact that Ondo has a massive market cap. It's already pretty high. Clearpool is kind of already pretty low, okay? Smaller market cap, and it's formed a very simple to find chart pattern, okay? Which would indicate that Clearpool is a good chance it's going to stop its downtrend somewhere around 12 cents, which, let's say worst case scenario, it kind of dips maybe down around 20% from here, which, given the upside potential that this coin has, in my opinion, I think is not really a bad bet, okay? So I'm not saying go and sell any other coins to ape into real-world assets, but if you had a little bit of cash aside or you just arrived into crypto and you wanted to maybe limit your risk and have a bit more kind of upside potential, then lean towards real-world assets. Find a coin that's doing quite well, like Ondo Finance. Find a coin that's similar to Ondo Finance that's a bit smaller, and you probably can't go too far wrong. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Hit the like button, subscribe. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.